185,000 soldiers could not defeat this angel. The mighty ancient Assyrian Empire, believed to be modern Iraq, led by the fierce king Sennacherib, was sweeping through the region, leaving a trail of conquered lands and broken spirits. Their reputation for brutality preceded them, and the people of Judah trembled at the news of their approach. Soon, the Assyrian army, strong and brave, encamped around Jerusalem, their tents stretching as far as the eye could see. This is one of the greatest stories in Scripture. It is an example of God's intervention that we need to hear, to put our fears and worries in the ground and bury them away forever. Now this brings us to the story of the besieged king whom the countless soldiers of Assyria were waiting to destroy, King Hezekiah of Judah. In the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel's reign, Hezekiah rose to the throne. It was a time of both peril and potential. His father, King Ahaz, had led Judah down a path of idolatry and alliances with pagan nations. Hezekiah's early life was shadowed by his father's unfaithfulness to the God of Israel. Despite his lineage, Hezekiah emerged as a beacon of reform and righteousness. From the beginning of his reign, Hezekiah set himself apart from his predecessors. He was determined to restore the worship of Yahweh and cleanse Judah of its spiritual corruption. In the very first year of his rule, he reopened the doors of the temple in Jerusalem, which his father had desecrated and neglected. He summoned the priests and Levites, urging them to purify themselves and the sanctuary. The temple was cleansed, and once more, sacrifices and worship were offered to the Lord. 2 Chronicles 29, verses 3-5. Hezekiah's reforms extended beyond the temple. He tore down the high places, shattered the sacred stones, and cut down the Asherah poles. He even destroyed the bronze serpent Moses had made, which God used to save the Israelites from snake bites in the wilderness, for the people had begun to worship it as an idol. 2 Kings 18, verse 4. His zeal for the Lord knew no bounds, and he sought to reunify the people of Israel and Judah in the true worship of God. His reign was marked by faithfulness to God, and in return, the Lord blessed him with prosperity and success. Hezekiah fortified Jerusalem, improving its defenses and ensuring a reliable water supply by constructing the famous Siloam Tunnel. This engineering marvel brought water from the Gihon Spring into the city, securing a crucial resource in times of siege. 2 Chronicles 32, verses 2-4 and 30. Hezekiah was a king who led his people with faith and fortitude. He was said to walk perfectly before the Lord, just like King David. The Bible records that he trusted God, and that there had not been a king like him before and after he reigned over Judah. But he had a time when his faith and the fate of his kingdom faced a dire test, and his trust in God was put to the test. Hezekiah conquered the Philistines up to Gaza and its territory, and he also rebelled against the king of Assyria, which is why the king of Assyria marched up against him. In the 14th year of Hezekiah's reign over Judah, Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, attacked and captured all the fortified cities of Judah, and only Jerusalem was standing. Only the city's walls stood as a final bulwark against the overwhelming force, and the sheer number of enemy soldiers was enough to strike fear into the hearts of even the bravest warriors. Note that the king of Assyria had captured Israel and carried the people away, settling them in Hala, in Gozan on the Habor River, and the towns of the Medes. This could have only happened because they had violated the covenant of God. They stopped carrying out the instructions God gave them, and because he did that to Israel, the kingdom of Judah became his next target. At this time, Hezekiah sent a message to the king of Assyria at Lachish and pleaded with him that he had done wrong and that anything the king asked of him, he would provide, so that he would turn away and leave his kingdom. Sennacherib, king of Assyria, demanded 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. Hezekiah had to ransack the treasuries of the king's house and the house of God to gather the tributes. He even stripped the temple doors and the pillars of the temple, which he had overlaid with gold. In the days following Hezekiah's payment of silver and gold to the king of Assyria, a tense and uneasy calm settled over Jerusalem. The tribute, stripped from the temple and the royal treasury, was a desperate attempt to buy peace and stave off the impending threat. King Hezekiah watched as his precious kingdom's wealth was carted away, hoping it would be enough to satisfy the Assyrian appetite for conquest. Yet, despite Hezekiah's sacrifice, the Assyrian forces did not relent. The tribute was received, but Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, was not a man easily appeased. He saw the riches of Judah as a mere prelude to the greater prize, the total subjugation of Jerusalem. With his eyes set on the fortified city, he ordered his generals to proceed with the siege. It was at this point that Hezekiah realized that he was dealing with a man who lacked integrity. The Assyrian army advanced, their numbers swelling the horizon like a dark, rolling storm. They encamped around Jerusalem, cutting off supplies and instilling fear among its inhabitants. Rabshakeh, the Assyrian commander, stood outside the city walls and called for the king. Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, the palace administrator, Shebna, the secretary, and Joah, son of Asaph, the recorder, went out to meet him. The supreme commander then passed this message, as recorded in 2 Kings 18, verses 19 to 25. This is what the great king, the king of Assyria, says. On what are you basing this confidence of yours? You say you have the counsel and the might for war, but you speak only empty words. On whom are you depending that you rebel against me? Look, I know you are depending on Egypt, that splintered reed of a staff which pierces the hand of anyone who leans on it. Such is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all who depend on him. But if you say to me, we are depending on the Lord our God, isn't he the one whose high places and altars Hezekiah removed, saying to Judah and Jerusalem, you must worship before this altar in Jerusalem? Come now, make a bargain with my master, the king of Assyria. I will give you 2,000 horses if you can put riders on them. How can you repulse one officer of the least of my master's officials, even though you are depending on Egypt for chariots and horsemen? Furthermore, have I come to attack and destroy this place without word from the Lord? The Lord himself told me to march against this country and destroy it. Note that this was all a lie. Although God uses different nations to punish and bring back his people when they err, God was not angry with Hezekiah and the kingdom of Judah, unlike Israel, who were not obedient to God and were full of errors. Now, Eliakim, Shebna, and Joah, who represented Hezekiah, said to the commander, please speak to your servants in Aramaic, since we understand it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and return for part 2. Thanks for watching. God bless you.